This is Jaleel Smith Riley, who is facing charges for murder in Michigan. Smith Riley was involved in an armed robbery on November 16, 2013, in Norwood, where he and two other men approached a parked car. Inside the parked car was 20-year-old Porsha Brooks and her boyfriend, Aaron Martin. Smith Riley knocked on the window with a handgun and forced Martin, who was in the passenger seat, out of the car. Jaleel then proceeded to go through Aaron's pockets and demanded his cash. Once Jaleel had taken every dollar Aaron had, he then took his life with a shot to the head, causing permanent brain damage. However, Jaleel wasn't done there. Right after shooting Aaron, he then leaned into the car and fired at Brooks, who was sitting in the car, twice. And she died 3 days later. Fortunately, Martin survived the shooting, but sustained serious injury. Before the judge announced the sentence that Jaleel would be facing, Porsha's family got the chance to address the jury and the man who took their daughter away from them. Sharon Brooks, Porsha's mother, brought the box containing her daughter's ashes to the courtroom, as she had for previous court dates. She stated that Smith Riley had ruined her life and killed her identity as a mother of three.
This is what I have left because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others and life. But as you can see, I get nothing back except the reality that she is gone.
Tia Marie Brooks, Porsha's sister, also spoke emotionally and requested that Smith Riley be handed the maximum sentence.
I have to deal with life without Porsha, so he should deal with life without parole.
Then, Aaron, who Jaleel shot in the head, spoke to the court.
She's still here with us, and she will always be here. So she's our angel looking over us, helping us get through these hard times.
As if Smith Riley's crime was not outrageous enough, his reaction to his sentence was even more dramatic. During the trial on August 11, 2021, Smith Riley pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and attempted murder. However, he later decided to withdraw his guilty plea against the advice of his attorneys.
From the beginning, this was an emotional day for the families of both of these victims, but when Smith Riley decided to reverse his plea halfway through the sentencing hearing, they were shocked, and his attorneys were too, in part because it puts the death penalty back on the table.
Prior to receiving his sentence, Jaleel was heard apologizing in court as what appeared to be a last attempt at showing remorse. Additionally, Jaleel's attorney made a final attempt at saving face.
And he knows he can't go back in time and not do what he did.
Despite the tears and the apologies, Judge Charles Kubicki, presiding over the case in Hamilton County Common Pleas Court, denied Smith Riley's request and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The 23-year-old monster that is currently...
Sharon Brooks holding her daughter's ashes at ski trenching. Imagine
Fuss
losing your
might
child
have
to
learned
grief
his
like
lesson.
Porsha was.
However,
Jaleel's
some
collapse
crimes
felt
require
dramatic,
more
but
than being
was it
remorseful,
remorse?
like
Or
in the
just
case
shock?
of Antonio Barbo.
These families don't get their loved ones back.
A 13-year-old who
No.
murdered his own
No
grandmother.
matter how many years he gets.
Money to buy pizza.
How do you
and
find
pot.
peace when justice
This is
feels so
Antonio
hollow?
Barbo, who is facing charges for murder in Wisconsin. His case was, can't be compared to the infamous case of T.J. Lane. This is T.J. Lane, who's facing charges for multiple murders in Ohio. T.J. Lane was a convicted American murderer who gained notoriety after committing a horrific crime at Chardon High School in Ohio. On February 27, 2012, the Ohio Police Department responded to multiple calls from teachers and students that there was an active shooter in the building.
High school, we had shots fired, gunshots, multiple gunshots.
Chardon High School, we need police up here. There's someone in the building with a gun.
According to police reports, Lane entered the school and headed to the cafeteria. It was here that T.J. Lane opened fire and killed 3 students and severely injured 3 others. 6 people got physically harmed at the hands of T.J. Lane that day, but hundreds, if not thousands of people left Chardon High School on February 27, 2012, with intangible pain that will last through eternity.
Glances of your friends laying all over the place, there's blood, there's people screaming, everybody's running in different directions, and you're just trying to get out.
I saw a kid holding a gun pointed towards a group of kids.
Do you remember the look on the gunman's face?
I never looked at his face, I just looked at the gun. I still can't think about it all because it's just so scary.
Lane's actions sent shockwaves through the community. He was swiftly apprehended and charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. As if the murders were not bad enough, Lane showed no remorse for his actions at the trial and refused to cooperate with his attorneys. Instead, he appeared in court wearing a t-shirt with the word killer written on it, and even gave the middle finger to the victims' families. During the sentencing hearing, Lane made a shocking statement.
Saying pull the trigger, the killer's done, masturbates to memory.
The statement caused outrage and disgust, not only among the families of the victims, but also across the entire nation. The judge presiding over the case, Judge David Fury, described Lane's behavior as heinous, unprovoked, and senseless, and sentenced him to 3 life sentences in prison without parole. Lane didn't even bat an eyelid when he heard his sentence. He remained emotionless and unremorseful. Lane's behavior and reactions were likened to that.
TJ Lane's smirk and killer shirt, it's not just defiance, it's evil staring families in the face. 3 kids gone, community shattered, and he doesn't care. Life sentences are justice, but they don't heal. What drives someone to this level of cruelty? An ancient question that's left of humanity in
The case of Ryan Stone. This is Ryan Stone, who is facing charges for going on a crime splurge throughout the nation, including kidnapping and assault, all of which was captured and broadcasted live by helicopters. The chase began after Stone hijacked a car with a 4-year-old boy inside and drove off, leading police on a dangerous pursuit that lasted more than an hour. During the chase, Stone drove up to 100 miles per hour and was reckless in every regard of the word. He's seen here overtaking an innocent civilian on the highway, throwing them out of the car before carrying on in the new vehicle. But that's not all. Watch here as he exits the highway, opens the car door at full speed, then slams onto the brakes right before crashing into another car parked in an intersection. Investigators believe this was a sorry attempt at another carjacking. Stone also crashed into several other vehicles during this chase, causing numerous injuries. At one point, he even came inches from taking out a policeman who was trying to place stop sticks on the highway. He eventually crashed the stolen car and attempted to flee on foot. However, he was quickly apprehended by police and placed in a holding cell. As if Stone's actions weren't bad enough, he was caught on tape boasting about his actions to a friend who visited him in the cell.
Hey, did you know I made the news in the UK and Australia? What? Yeah, my lawyer told me I made the news in the UK and Australia. If you type in Grand Theft Auto on YouTube, my shit comes up first.
Ryan also believed that he should be compensated for his viral car chase because the news channels are using his car chase footage.
I'm going to contact Channel 7 News or have you contact Channel 7 News or somebody. You guys are getting paid using my name.
Stone was charged with 26 crimes involving kidnapping, motor vehicle theft, assault, and eluding police. Stone's sentencing hearing was emotional. In court, many of his victims and their families can be heard speaking about the impact of his crimes on their lives. Some spoke of physical injuries they had sustained in the crash, while others described the emotional trauma they had experienced due to the incident. Stone spoke at the hearing. He cried, expressed remorse for his actions, and apologized to his victims. Isn't it ironic that in the same week, Ryan was captured in the video on the left, laughing and boasting about his crimes, and on the other video on the right, he's seen crying and begging for sympathy from the court, as he finally realized the severity of his actions. Despite his apology, the judge in the case was unmoved, noting that Stone had shown a pattern of criminal behavior and that he posed a threat to society. The judge handed down the maximum sentence possible. Stone pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to 160 years in prison.
Ryan Stone
While
laughed
Judy
about
and
his
her neighbor
chase going
are left
viral,
frantic
then
to
cried
call
for
for
mercy.
help and try and
The
save
hypocrisy
Barbara.
is
Antonio
infuriating.
and his accomplice
His
used the
victim's scars, physical and emotional,
$155
won't
to
fade
get
with
high
his
and
tears.
enjoy some pizza.
160
During the trial,
years
you
feels
could see
right,
Barbo
but
reading
it
a
doesn't
statement,
undo the terror he
apologizing
caused.
for the killing.
How do you
and
trust
asking
someone's
for
remorse when they
forgiveness.
only show it at
Barbo
sentencing?
said he regretted his actions. Regardless of his apologies, Barbo are rather shocked by their sentences, like in the case of Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari. This is Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari, who are facing charges for first-degree murder in Michigan. Seth and Tatiana were the parents of 10-month-old Marianne Welch, who police said died of malnutrition and dehydration due to neglect on August 2nd, 2018, in Solon Township, Kent County, Michigan. Child Protective Services had been involved with the family since 2014 after THC was found in the system of their firstborn child. Mary weighed only 8 pounds at the time of her death. Her parents refused to seek medical help, citing religious reasons and distrust of the medical system. The family home was found to be unhygienic during the initial investigation, with evidence of vermin, insects, and mold. The doctor who performed the autopsy confirmed that Mary was suffering from chronic malnutrition caused by withholding food and water. Seth's call to 911 revealed their level of neglect for their daughter.
And he said when you found her, she was already believed to be deceased, right? Yes. And that's when you consulted with a lawyer? Yep. Do you believe she was beyond help already? Oh, yeah. He was dead as a door now.
When in court, the prosecutors made sure to highlight just how neglectful the parents were of their 10-month-old child.
You didn't know that. And don't tell me you didn't intend that because you didn't get her little tush out of that crib. You left her in there. You ignored her because she was an inconvenience.
The couple was initially charged with felony homicide murder in August 2018. In June 2020, Seth Welch was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 2021, Fusari testified that her husband was abusive and that she was not allowed to take Mary to the doctor.
He got very angry with me. He smacked me across the face and he told me that he knows he said, "You know what the I think about doctors. I told you Mary is fine. She's fine, now drop it."
In November 2021, Fusari was sentenced to life without parole for first-degree murder and an additional 15 to 30 years for first-degree child abuse. When the judge pronounced their life sentence, Seth's mouth dropped open in shock and Fusari started crying. For many people, this severe that a child
Mary Welch weighed
beaten
8 pounds
to
at
death?
10 months.
Well, listen
That alone
here.
breaks your heart.
And then a violent
Seth and
death
Tatiana's
for
neglect,
taking a
hiding
cupcake
behind
from the
religious
kitchen.
A
excuses
child
is
who was
unforgivable.
inside the home
Their
witnessed the
shock at life
attack
sentences
and reported the
should have
events
thought
to
of
the
Mary.
police.
How does a parent let their child waste away? It's a betrayal beyond comprehension.
Morris's sister, Glendria Justice. There was the case of Esteban Carpio. This is Esteban Carpio, who is facing charges for murder in Rhode Island. Carpio is an American murderer who killed a detective at a Providence police station in 2005. Providence Police Detective Sergeant James L. Allen and another detective were questioning Carpio at the Providence Police Headquarters for accosting an 85-year-old woman, Madeline Gata. According to police reports, the second detective left to the third-floor interview room to retrieve some water. It was here where things took a turn for the worst.
Carpio had asked for water, and the two detectives that were in there with him, one left to go get the water and locked the door behind him. And they tragically heard Detective Allen say, "I think he's going to kill me. He's got my gun. He's going to kill me." By the time they broke it down, the officer was dying, and Carpio had jumped out the window.
However, he was recaptured a few minutes later amid struggles with the police. But that was not the end of the drama. Due to the risky jump and struggles with the police, Carpio sustained injuries. When it came time for his sentencing, Carpio came to court wearing a mask designed to keep him from spitting at or biting others. His face was red, bruised, and swollen. When he appeared in court, his family members screamed and accused the police of brutality. The family believed that they forced him to wear the mask to try and hide the brutal revenge beating they gave Carpio behind closed doors. In fact, Carpio's aunt went on live TV to say this.
It's police brutality. He was mentally ill, and he needed help, and we couldn't get it. We tried and tried, and he didn't deserve this.
However, Providence Police Chief Dean M. Esserman argued that Carpio's injuries were sustained when he jumped from the third-floor interview room and resisted arrest. The FBI later investigated the police, but it was concluded that they did not use excessive force.
No civil rights violation when injuries are incident to arrest, meaning if he's fighting the police officers, the officers have the right to use whatever force necessary to subdue the subject.
On June 27, 2006, a jury found Carpio guilty of the murder of Detective Allen and the stabbing of Madeline Gata. Despite his plea of insanity, Carpio was sentenced to life in prison without parole. At first, he showed little reaction to his sentence and remained unmoved. However, later, in an attempt to win over the jury, he was heard apologizing for his actions.
Every day, I face the facts.
Tweeted this the same night she took 2 girls' lives in a deadly drunk driving crash. This is Kayla Mendoza.
Ms. Mendoza, to 2 counts of DUI manslaughter. That's count 1 and count 3. How do you plead?
Who is facing charges for double manslaughter, among other charges, in Florida. The 20-year-old woman who was not licensed to drive was convicted of the murder of 2 women while drunk driving in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on November 17, 2013. Before the crash, Mendoza went to a local bar with her manager and colleagues from her job, where she drank 2 fishbowl margaritas. A few hours later, Mendoza got behind the wheel of a Hyundai Sonata and drove the wrong way on the Sawgrass Expressway.
Kayla hopped into her car and went speeding the wrong way down the freeway at more than 80 miles an hour. She collided head-on with another car, killing these 2 beautiful young women, Marissa Cotroneo and Caitlin Ferrante, both just 21.
Mendoza was charged with 2 counts of DUI manslaughter while impaired, 2 counts of DUI manslaughter with an unlawful blood alcohol level, 2 counts of vehicular homicide, and 2 counts of driving without a license causing death. Mendoza's then-boyfriend owned the Hyundai Sonata involved in the crash and explained that the "too drunk to care" tweet was directed toward him.
The "too drunk to care" tweet was for my boyfriend because he was upset I was out, hanging out with them and with Marcelo drinking because he wanted me to be home.
The Ferrante and Cotroneo families filed lawsuits against Mendoza, her boyfriend, the T-Mobile store where Mendoza was employed, and the Tijuana Taxi Company. On May 4, 2015, 2 months after pleading guilty to 2 DUI manslaughter charges, Mendoza was sentenced to 24 years in prison. Mendoza was apologetic throughout the trial. When she heard her sentence, her apology and crying intensified.
How much time passes, I'm going to live with that in my heart every day.
After her sentence, Mendoza will also serve 6 years of probation and is permanently banned from driving a motor vehicle. Mendoza's apologies and remorse showed that she may yet be Adrian Dunn, who is facing charges for murder in San Antonio. Adrian, an ex-convict, was sentenced for the murder of Rakeem Tariq Charles. Police said that Adrian shot Charles in the back during a drug deal in a parking lot on July 16, 2012. To make matters worse, this wasn't even Dunn's first encounter with law enforcement.
To prison twice for possessing a firearm after this murder. He committed another shooting a month before this murder. And he's shown 0 remorse.
Prosecutors urged the jury to impose the maximum sentence, noting that Adrian had an extensive criminal history and had shown no remorse for the murder. Prosecutor Jason Goss can be seen here holding the hand of the victim's parents. Before arguing to the jury that a life sentence was necessary to prevent another family from suffering, as Charles' family had.
Her son, who has to suffer, and this family who has to suffer because of the defendant. And that's why we're asking you for a life sentence.
If you thought the crimes were horrendous, wait till you see how Adrian reacted to his sentence. Throughout the trial, Adrian showed no remorse and couldn't have been less concerned. He was found guilty of the crime. Still, his attorney argued that a sentence of 35 to 40 years would be more appropriate. His reasoning?
Don't give Adrian a chance to go into prison and try to make something of himself so that when he gets out, if he ever gets out, he can try to be an asset to our community.
However, the jury deliberated for just 2 hours before returning with a sentence of life in prison. As the jury's decision was read out, Adrian began to fight with Bexar County Sheriff's deputies attempting to escort him from the courtroom. Dunn's behave in court and feel genuine remorse for their actions, like in the case of Ellis Nelson Ortiz-Nieves. This is Ellis Nelson Ortiz-Nieves.
The bruises, some of the bruises were in the shape of a belt buckle.
Man, I ain't gonna let you sit here and say no crazy shit about me, man. No, man, because he's saying shit he don't even know, man.
He was facing charges for the murder of an infant in Michigan. The cause of death was physical abuse, which was later ruled as murder. The 4-year-old boy, Giovanni Mejias, was the son of Ortiz-Nieves' girlfriend, Sonia Hernandez. Sonia claimed she had no involvement in the crime. However, her neighbor had a different side of the story.
Sonia was well aware. She was well aware of what was happening because she told him that was his responsibility to whoop them.
Ortiz-Nieves denied abusing the boy, but the judge and prosecutors believe his beating the child resulted in his death. Kent County deputies reported that when they arrived at the Gaines Township trailer, where Ortiz-Nieves was left to care for several children under 11, it was here that they found Giovanni left on the kitchen floor. An autopsy showed that Giovanni died from internal bleeding caused by an abdominal tear, which would have been caused by an adult, not a child. During the trial, Kent County Circuit Court Judge Mark Trusock can be heard condemning Ortiz-Nieves' actions, reprimanding him in very strong words, and insisting that he should never be allowed out of prison.
You are the lowest form of human life that I've been able to observe or see. That you committed this murder and that you beat this little boy to death.
The judge described the injuries suffered by Giovanni before his death, causing Ortiz-Nieves to become upset and struggle with deputies, who had to remove him from the courtroom.
You had put cigarettes out on this poor little child. There was evidence of that from the pictures. Anybody says anything back there?
Ortiz-Nieves was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole and was given a sentence of 80 to 150 years for first-degree child abuse. Ortiz-Nieves. There is the case of Jordan Fuss. This is Jordan Fuss.
I'm sorry. I wish it was me. He did not deserve it. I did.
Facing charges for manslaughter in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The 22-year-old was found guilty of DUI manslaughter in a 2014 crash that claimed the life of 6-year-old Santiago Geraldo. Fuss, shaking uncontrollably as he entered the courtroom with his family, had a blood alcohol level of 0.21%, which is more than twice the legal limit. He was traveling over 90 miles per hour on Sterling Road when he crashed his 2004 Infiniti G35 into another vehicle at Davie Road just before midnight on October 3, 2014. Prosecutors had sought the maximum sentence for the crime. Fuss' attorney argued for a reduced sentence, stating that his client had been so remorseful that he had contemplated suicide. However, prosecutors stated that Fuss had admitted to using alcohol and smoking marijuana since the crash. The Geraldo family cried in court, while the defense argued for a lighter sentence. Santiago's father took the stand and had this to say while staring directly into Jordan's eyes.
May God forgive you, because I can't. He didn't just take my son's life, he took mine too.
During the trial, Fuss can be seen apologizing to the victim's family in tears.
I'm sorry. I wish it was me. He did not deserve it. I did.
He also expressed his love for his family members and girlfriend, whom he met online after the crash. Then came the verdict as Jordan was sentenced to 14 years in prison.
Imposes the lowest permissible prison sentence allowable by Florida's Criminal Punishment Code, 14.625 years.
He continued crying as he learned his fate. Was sentenced
Santiago's
to life
father
imprisonment
saying, "You took
as
my
he
life
continued
too.
crying.
Hit like a punch."
However shocking you think
Jordan's
Barbo's
tears
case
seemed
was,
real, but
LaShirley
remorse can't bring a
Morris's
6-year-old
case
back.
gives it a run for its
14
money.
years is
This
justice,
is
but it's
LaShirley
not enough
Morris,
for a family's
who is
pain.
facing charges for murder in
DUI
Atlanta.
crashes are preventable.
LaShirley is accused of
Can we
killing
keep seeing these
3-year-old
tragedies?
Kaywan Mason.
It's a wake-up call
The
for all
cause
of
of death was physical abuse with a baseball bat